Hey guys, so for the past 2 weeks, I've been eating, sweating, and exploring my way through one of the most vibrant, chaotic, and downright beautiful places I've ever been, Sri Lanka. We're talking tuk-tuk traffic jams, spicy food that packs a punch, stunning tea plantations, misty mornings, and endless rows of green. Also, cows, so many cows, just vibing on porches in the middle of traffic, completely unbothered, like they own the street. And at one point, I even stumbled into a quiet little gated community that felt like it had been borrowed from the English countryside. Brick homes, trimmed hedges, calm streets. I was briefly not sweating. And I want you guys to see it all, from the unexpected fine dining and five-star luxury tucked between tropical beaches and busy streets. You're gonna be in for a ride. So buckle up, slather on that sunscreen, and let's get into this very warm, very green adventure. So after a very bumpy flight, we made it to our first stop, the Taj Hotel in Colombo. And let me just say, this place is fancy, like marble floors, high ceilings, mood lighting, and a lobby that makes you feel like you've stepped into a castle. Here's a quick peek at our room. Also, meet my daughter Silva. It's her first time in Sri Lanka and she is already living her best hotel life. We had an ocean view room which we took full advantage of, making sure our first cup of tea each morning was enjoyed right by the window. And after that tea, we rushed over to the breakfast buffet. We had doses made fresh on the spot, omelets, string hoppers, fresh fruit, and heaps of different curries. Thank you so much. So after stuffing ourselves at breakfast and briefly considering a nap, we decided to actually leave the hotel and go explore
guys, we
Colombo.
just stepped out to do some exploring. We are on our way to a shopping mall. It's called One Skullface. It's literally like 2 doors down from our hotel, and if you know me, then you know I have a little bit of a shopping problem. So yeah, go check it out and see what it looks like.
Super sleek, super modern, and honestly giving Chadstone a serious run for its money. From tea to Rolexes, this mall seemed to be selling it all.
For you.
We're on a quest to find a hat. So far, no luck. Okay, we saw a hat shop, so maybe we'll get lucky.
After a full day of wandering, sweating, and shopping for questionable sun hats, which I did manage to find one I liked, we decided it was time to cool off, literally. So we made our way to the pool, which honestly felt like a tiny slice of paradise. Silver absolutely loved the water. She was in there within seconds, living her best splashy life, while I opted for a Cosmo and a very strategic spot in the shade. My husband, who can actually swim like a normal functioning adult, decided it was a perfect time to teach me. But between the Cosmo in my sister and my general lack of coordination, the whole thing was, let's just call it a spirited attempt. So, fun fact, that day also happened to be Mother's Day, and my husband, being the planner that he is, decided to treat me and Silver to something extra special. We stepped into the London Grill, one of Colombo's oldest fine dining spots, all old school charm, polished silverware, and soft lighting that made everything feel just a little more cinematic. While we distracted Silver with some cutlery and a little help from Miss Rachel, we kicked things off with a trio of complimentary butters and bread, and they were all dangerously good. Then came a surprise of absolutely delicious slices of crispy potato with melty cheese, tiny, fancy, and completely inhaled in under 30 seconds. For our starters, we went with some of their signature dishes, including baked oysters and amaretto ravioli, which were both absolute standouts. I did have my heart set on the escargot, one of my all-time favorites from here, but sadly it wasn't available that night. Next came a lime sorbet palate cleanser that made us feel like we were in a Michelin tasting menu moment. And then the main event, pan-seared duck breast for both of us, perfectly cooked, rich, and just absolutely delicious. By the end, we were absolutely stuffed, no room for dessert, but the chef still sent out a plate of complimentary chocolate truffles, which I meant to film, but they mysteriously disappeared before the camera could roll. The food, as always, was incredible, but the service absolutely next level. It was one of those meals you just kind of want to pause and soak in. The next morning, we were back at breakfast buffet, obviously, and this time we had a special guest, my dad. He flew out with us to Sri Lanka, but was staying in another part of the city, so it was extra nice to have him join us for a proper family breakfast. So after sufficiently overloading our plates again, we headed back to explore. We buzzed around Colombo in a tuk-tuk, wind in our faces, mildly concerned about the traffic, but mostly just vibing. And at some point in between all that buzzing, I snuck away for a much needed wash and blow wave because, let's be honest, the humidity was winning and I was tired of pretending otherwise. That week also happened to be Vesak, kind of like Christmas but for Buddhists. It celebrates the birth, enlightenment and the death of Buddha, all rolled into one deeply meaningful and wildly festive few days. The city was lit up with glowing paper lanterns and people lined the streets offering free food and drinks as acts of kindness. It was beautiful and completely chaotic. The roads were blocked off everywhere, tuk-tuk and Ubers vanished like ghosts, and we ended up walking halfway back to our hotel through crowds and flashing lights, dodging lantern wires, snack carts and confused tourists before we finally flagged down a ride. 10 out of 10 for cultural immersion, slightly less for foot blisters. After all the walking, weaving through crowds and general Vesak-induced chaos, we let ourselves sleep in the next day. So much so that we were those people rolling into the buffet right before it closed, still committed to the hoppers and sambols, just at a slower pace. Once fed and mildly caffeinated, we set out for something long overdue, foot massages. And let me tell you, after 2 days of chasing tuk-tuks, carrying a toddler and walking across Colombo like we were in the Amazing Race, those massages were everything. After a few busy days in Colombo, we made our way into the hills to Noura Elia. And honestly, the views on the way there were enough to make you forget every tuk-tuk traffic jam we'd just survived. We stayed in a little cottage called Andrew's Mansion, and from the moment we stepped inside, it just felt right. The next morning, our first stop was Gregory Lake, and it was the perfect mix of peaceful and slightly chaotic in the best way. We were greeted by horses just casually hanging out, and Silver immediately threw herself into the grass like it was her personal playground. We took a boat ride across the lake with beautiful misty views, And just as we were making our way back to the car, a woman doing palm readings came up to me and gave me a reading. Naturally, I had to try it, and so did Prasad. I don't know, maybe it was the mountain energy and the slightly dramatic hand gestures, but it genuinely felt like she was reading my soul. So the next stop was Pedro Tea Estate, and wow, the views did not let up. Rolling hills blanketed in tea bushes, soft mist curling over the landscape. It was like a desktop background, but like real, and with a slight smell of fresh leaves and humidity, of course. We weren't allowed to film inside the tea factory itself, which is fair, but it was definitely an experience. The smell, the clatter of machines, and the process behind every single cup we take for granted, it was eye-opening. After the tour, we made our way through the tea plantations, winding between rows of perfectly trimmed green. I tried to pick a few leaves for the full experience and was immediately corrected by Prasad, who kindly pointed out that I had, of course, picked the wrong ones. Classic me, but hey, points for enthusiasm. So on our way back from the tea estate, we actually sort of got lost. I pulled out my camera to film some cows just casually strolling down the road, as they do, and something caught my eye. Tucked off to the side behind a little gate was this row of beautiful buildings that looked like they'd been plucked straight out of the English countryside. Turns out we had stumbled upon Little England Cottages, an actual gated community of stone houses, manicured gardens, and peaceful winding lanes. It was so quiet and so charming, I half expected someone in tweed to walk by offering me tea and scones. On our way back to the Airbnb, we made a little pit stop for tea, as one does in Sri Lanka, and ended up at the Treehouse Cafe. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. The whole cafe was literally built around a tree with a massive tree trunk right up through the middle of the dining area. We ordered some tea and pan rolls, nice and crispy on the outside and soft and spicy on the inside, and settled in while Silver explored. Naturally, Prasad couldn't resist climbing the actual tree trunk because, of course, he did.
We're going to see the elephants. I'm so excited. If you guys didn't know already, I absolutely am obsessed with elephants. Like, I think elephants are my spirit animal, and I just go kind of crazy when I see them. So every time we come to Sri Lanka and we come here to visit the elephants, I feel like a little kid. I just get so excited. All right, here we go.
After we were done at the elephant orphanage, we spotted a little Hoppers cafe just across the road, and the guy was making them fresh right in front of us.
You want another one, honey?
The next day, we made our way back to Colombo for the final stretch of the trip. This time, we stayed at the Kingsbury, and after the drive, we went straight for the pool, as usual. No unpacking, no hesitation, just straight into the water. It was our last night in Colombo before heading back to Melbourne, so we just took it slow. One last swim, one last city sunset, and just a whole lot of gratitude. And of course, before our flight the next morning, we couldn't skip one final breakfast buffet. You already know the drill: hoppers, fruit, curry, pastries. Hope you guys enjoyed coming along for the ride from tuk-tuks and tree leaves to fancy dinners and spontaneous tree climbs. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.